And they still do it. In fact, Egypt ain't in Africa no more. You didn't know that? So we have to understand ourselves, and then we have to know our history. The first liberated country in Africa, even though it was through the coup d'etat, was Gabou Abdul Nasser, a Pan-Africanist. Frantz Fanon from Martinique. And he's a hero of the Algerian Revolution. We just got to know our history, understand this thing properly. I can't cite where you find this thing, but I'm going to tell you about something that exists that explains much of our confusion about North Africa. In the early 60s, Shirley Graham Du Bois, the wife of W.B. Du Bois, made a trip to Gaza. And when she left, she did some writings about what was happening in Gaza. She was going to Guinea, but instead of just flying from Palestine to Guinea, she traveled across North Africa. And in her travels, she was met with these questions that you're asking. And she says, people don't understand history. North Africa has been at war with, Southwest Asia? I hate Middle East. I hate that. Right? As has the Palestinians, from time immemorial. Palestinians didn't start off looking like y'all. All of them armies from Persia, from Abyssinia, from Babylon, from Mesopotamia, from the Ottomans, all of them armies that came into Palestine and into North Africa, they never brought women with them. That's what lightened the population. The invasions and the war. That don't change who you are, right? And I tell people all the time, look, if the master raped a slave and they had a baby, you would welcome that baby into your arm. In fact, you would give it extra protection knowing that she was a product of a trauma, right? This is the attitude we need to have to North Africa. That is us. And whatever they look like is because they withstood invasions on us by others. They are heroic people who have always stood by us. And they have a class contradiction among them because some of them ain't worth a damn. You got to distinguish between the oppressors and the masses. The masses of people in North Africa know that their relationship is to Africa. The masses know it. And it's even stronger now since Gaddafi finished his romance with Pan-Arabism. And you know why he split with the Pan-Arabists? Because they never gave serious support and permanent support to the Palestinian revolution like he thought they would. This is part of the reason why Gaddafi became a devout Pan-Africanist. Because he was betrayed by Jordan and Saudi Arabia and even the Ba'ath parties. I ain't scared to talk about them. The Arab Ba'ath Socialist Party, the Arab Socialist Party, was self-serving and never gave what was needed. The PLO was always begging for help, and they never stood up for the most part on any kind of permanent basis. So we have to define the terms of this relationship and not let the enemy define it for us. We are one people, and there is one Africa, and our people are scattered around the world, and we are in this thing together. And it don't matter what you look like, because I got some cousins with blue eyes and German mothers. And they the biggest hood rats in the family. They don't look like me. So don't concern yourself with that confusion. You know, we know who we are. And Algeria. Algeria. You understand? They went to war for this thing before everybody. They fought for Africa. They were Pan-Africanists and Pan-Arabists and revolutionaries. So that's the other thing. We got to know our history. Don't forget what has happened in the past. It's important.
Can I also just quickly say, because you use the term, I think to your point about the sort of tools of confusion, I will say that intersectionality does play a role in that as a term that's being used because it's misused. I think in a lot of instances because it is. It's a legal, right? It's a term for legal framework and understanding like systemic oppressions. And the way that people have used intersectionality, we can see a lot of that play out in this sort of radical liberal feminism that's occurring when, like you spoke to, like we are supposed to be happy to see a Kamala or happy to see a Linda Thompson Greenfield, right? Because they are black women, you know, so so those kind of intersectional or the use of intersectionality because it's a liberal framework in itself, and Kimberly Crenshaw is certainly a liberal. So the basis of it leaves a lot of limitations to how we can even begin to understand one another, and then begin to relate to one another, right? Because we're trying to fixate it in these kind of boxes where we could check off, as opposed to understanding like the root relationship between us all.
And just to add, I think it's very poignant because I lived in Egypt for 7 years, right? So it's very poignant when I remember having a conversation with a taxi driver and he goes, "Antiminane Bat, where are you from?" I said, I'm an African Zayek, I'm African like you. He goes, "What? Anna? I'm not African." I'm not African, right? So you had that kind of back and forth. But again, for me, it's just, I don't pay that any attention because fundamentally, when I was with the lots of like local Egyptian people, I met people who were proud of being African in these places, in Morocco, in Tunisia, in Algeria. So I think, yes, you might have a lot of people who say, okay, I'm Arab, and they don't see the African connection, but also that there's a reason why that gets amplified. People always want to focus on the division. I met so many people in Egypt who were very proud of being African and who said they were African as well. So I think it's very important, like, we can also play up that history as well and that kind of understanding. And this is why I personally don't like the term Sub-Saharan Africa, I'll be honest. I'll be honest, I don't like the term Sub-Saharan Africa because what you're trying to say is, this is black Africa. Right. No, there's only one Africa, we're all there, we're all African, right? So, yeah.
And you got people in the Sudan that's black as night calling themselves Arabs, you know.
Exactly.
Arab, tell you I'm Arab. So the confusion proliferates. And here we call ourselves American, call ourselves Ghanaian, we call ourselves Arab, we call ourselves all kind of stuff. And these are the divisions that the enemy has placed amongst us in order to foster rivalries inside of our new movements and to get us to work inside of our cycles, silos. I want revolution, so I'm thinking about a cyclone. But this is language, and this is the first point we made, language. How we use language. How the enemy expropriates our language, how we adopt the enemy's terminology to explain what we're going through. We don't understand. Kwame Ture used to say that America is the most technologically advanced country in the world, and it's the most ethically backward place on the planet Earth. We have no ethics, we have no morals, we're not committed to anything but that dollar. And we have to take control of our own language.
So I know that a lot of people want to ask questions. I did keep tabs on the next 3 people, which I think are the only people we're going to be able to answer. So there's over here, just so that they know that they're going to talk.